Hi, feminine ladies. Welcome back to the Feminine Standard, where we balance softness, build boundaries, and become all that God has created us to be. I pray that you've been well. Today's video is sponsored by the Feminine Standard School, where we have 7 schools, 1 excellent standard. The core concepts of this school are femininity, etiquette, which includes physical hygiene and spiritual hygiene, as well as boundaries. This school is available for application. You can go to the link in the description of this video, as well as the link in my bio on all platforms. My name is Samara Guillaume on TikTok, Instagram, as well as YouTube. I know that this school is for the woman who is truly ready to take her refinement to the next level by going through focused classes and curriculum so that she can really become all that God has created her to be in the inner beauty, the inner work that it takes to be a feminine woman to and according to biblical standards. So I pray that I start to see more faces from my different platforms inside of my school. Today's topic is going to be how God will really slow down your life when you refuse to rest. So today's focus is going to be also on femininity. Most of my brand and my content focus around femininity, etiquette, and boundaries. And today we're going to focus on the feminine part of being a woman, the part that is receptive, the part that has a standard that you live up to, the part that is soft, the part that is really needed to be cultivated, especially when most women have been operating in survival mode. So with that, we're going to get into some of the core topics for today's video. And that is, excuse me, we have 7 points. The first point is that biblical femininity starts with grace, not grind. Oftentimes, when we think of being more feminine or the soft life, we might think of doing nothing, but grace isn't about doing nothing and being helpless. It's actually about surrendering and trusting God so that we can get further, moving at His pace and His perfect timing instead of the pace that we would go in our own strength and ability. So when we look at the book of Esther, we meet Queen Esther. Before she's a queen, she has to go through moving at the Lord's pace in the process that it takes to be refined before she could be presented to King Xerxes. So that was a 12-month process of perfuming, of purification, of refinement, of etiquette classes and social graces and learning what it takes to be the queen. But not only was she already beautiful, but she had to be patient enough to go through this process without really knowing how it would work out for her. But because the king already favored her, she was chosen to be queen. And of course, because she had God's favor on her life. So when we really think of biblical femininity, we think of going at this graceful pace. It's a flow, it's a receptivity, it's patience. And a lot of our lives require us to move at such an upbeat pace that we almost feel like and we feel helpless to really just rest and go at the Lord's pace. We say that we trust God, but then you're doing everything and you're overworking yourself and you're burnt out, and then it becomes a saying and a mantra, but it's not something we actually live by. So when we want to be on our femininity journey and we want to glow up not just on the outside with the makeup and the hair, which is also a part of femininity, But when we want to truly have that transformative experience and that transformative outcome so that we are no longer the same person inside and out, we have to start with the grace of God. And in appreciation and in thanksgiving, we know that it's by God's grace that we are even able to do what we are able to do. So when we think of it in terms of God is allowing me to do this, God is allowing me to experience this life, then it switches our perspective from how do I get these things done? How do I accomplish this thing? To now I know that I'm partnering supernaturally with God to accomplish all that He's created me to do in this life. So it's no longer just, yes, I believe in God in my head, but it then flows down to our heart so that it's an experience that we feel in our souls that yes, I trust God. I trust God. I trust God. I trust God. I know that the outcome is going to be in my favor because I trust Him. And I know that when I walk with Him and when I obey Him and when I'm keeping His commandments, all things are going to work together for my good. It is the scripture. I believe the word of God because it is His word and it is what cannot fail and it is what cannot be a lie and it's what does not fade away or die. So when you move with that type of intention and with that knowing, you're moving with grace. You're moving not just with a physical grace. When you see a ballerina dancing and she's poised and she's gracious, well, graceful, but you're now able to move with grace, knowing that the Lord is carrying me through instead of thinking that you have to now be up to the standard that social media sets or that anyone else could set for you. You know that God is able and He will move you in ways that you couldn't move even if you did not sleep, didn't eat, just worked around the clock, went to every single event, applied to every single brand deal and Sephora squad, and just did everything all at once, all the time, and like obsessively checking out your emails and the platform and seeing when applications are being accepted, and you're just constantly on edge about things. Even if you did that, you still couldn't even measure up to everything that God's going to do for you. When you just take that step back and you take the back seat or the passenger seat and you're a passenger seat princess for Christ and you say, listen, I know you got it, God, I trust you. I'm obedient. I'm going to do what you're telling me to do. So what's the next step, God? And if there is no new instruction, I'm going to do what you told me to do last time because I know that that's still the relevant set of instructions that I need to be successful and graceful and to really hone in on the feminine qualities that you created for me to embody. So the second point, number 2, is why healed women move slower but get further. This is, again, going back to the same concept of femininity. We are moving in grace at the Lord's pace. It might look like if you compare yourself to someone in the world who is maybe having these different brand deals and the things that maybe you want to do. Maybe they have the job and the career. Maybe they're already been an attorney for several years and you're just starting out. You can have been at this pace that feels slower than someone else who's already seasoned in the industry, or maybe who's already married. Maybe you desire to be married and a homemaker or a kept woman or a stay-at-home wife, and you see someone else who's been already doing it. She has all these luxuries, and you're like, wow, I'm still single. I'm not even married. And you're comparing yourself to someone else, which we should not do because comparison is the thief of joy, and we are not supposed to be measuring ourselves up to anyone else because we are unique and God created us as such. So we have to be better than we were yesterday, but not better than anybody else. So when we think about going at God's pace, it is moving slower. You're not rushing and doing being productive at every moment, but you're instead resting and relying on God to do the things in the supernatural that you can't do on your own. So at that, you know that you have to move at this pace that God has you at. Usually it's slower, but you're getting further because you're having the assistance of God supernaturally that other people won't have. So even though it may seem like you're just now starting out with everything that you want to do in life that you feel like you're so behind on, you will get further because only God can take you to the heights that you are going to reach. And God even says in his word that he will restore to us the years that the cankerworm and the locust worm and the palmer worm have eaten away, meaning that even though we may feel like we're behind because we wasted years in sin, we wasted years in the world, we wasted years in disobedience and in rebellion, he's going to restore those years to us. So even though we are probably by the world standard behind, we will get further because where God is taking us, no man could have taken us. No person can go because it's really his. It's his plan, it's his calendar, it's his schedule, it's what he can only do. So when you allow God to do something for you, it's going to be so much better than when we did it ourselves. And even though you see someone right now, you might think, oh, well, she's doing so much better. Don't worry about what she's doing or how she's doing. Just think about where God is taking you because that's going to be a better and bigger destination. We look at Queen Esther. She could have looked at anyone else where she came from in the village, and they might have been able to just freely move and advance themselves. But she's thinking, oh, wow, I have to take this 12-year process, and then there's still no certainty. But in her taking that 12-year process, she got further than she would have if she stayed back home in her village, doing work, trying to toil away and get someplace further than she was in that current moment. Healed women move slower, but they get further really because we're not rushing. We're not coming from a place of desperation and hustle and grind. We're moving in grace. We're moving in trust and patience. We have a flow and an ease to us because we know it's in my Father's hands. I don't have to worry about it. God said that this is something that he has for me, then he's going to have to help me accomplish it. And it is so. The third point is that femininity begins where striving ends. With my testimony, and even in many other testimonies, you'll hear when people said, or when people say, the second that I let go of the desire to be a mother, to be a wife, to be successful in this specific industry, the moment that I let go of even a past career or job because it was so lucrative, but it was really rooted in sin, the moment that we let go of these things and we stopped striving and we stopped overloading ourselves, and even to the point of us being so tired and overwhelmed that we just broke down and said, God, I can't do this. I don't know why it's not working, but I need your help. I'm done. I can't do it on my own. The moment that we put our hands up and we surrendered and we waved the white flag, that's where grace was able to begin. That's where femininity was able to begin. That's where God was able to take us and become and mold us, the potter molding us in his hand as his clay. And that's when he was able to really do what he willed in our lives, because we had to step back and stop striving and realize that our works alone are nothing. They're nothing, and they can't do anything without the grace of God. Again, taking that look into the book of Esther, we see that she was soft, receptive, present, and very self-aware. And with the cultivation of your femininity, you're going to become more self-aware of how you present yourself, of what you're perceiving yourself as and how others perceive you. because you're moving from a sense of identity. Every morning when you wake up and you get dressed, are you just getting dressed because, well, it's cold or it's hot and I just needed to put something on? Or are you moving with the awareness that I need to reflect the woman that I'm becoming? So, how does that woman dress? How does that woman move about the world? There's a self awareness for you to realize, okay, how have I been showing up and how would I like to ultimately be perceived and received as? And when you connect those two so that they're the same, instead of you now saying one thing but doing the other, you're going to align yourself with the identity that God has created for you to operate in, that softer and that feminine woman. No, we don't all have to look the same. We don't all have to have the same hairstyle, the same makeup, the same style of dress. You want to wear what looks great on you. And a woman who is operating in her femininity and her feminine power is a woman who's very self-aware. She knows what looks good on her. She knows her color, her shade of blush. She knows what lash, what hairstyle, what figure she has. So she knows how she should be dressing, what materials feel good. I'm a silk girl. I love silky. I love soft. I love things that look good on my skin tone. I know my undertones. So when you are someone who is self-aware, it's bringing you closer to being feminine. Now, the next thing you want to make sure you're focusing on is being receptive. How do you receive a compliment? Something as simple as, "Oh, I love that lip shade you have on. I love your hair." Just say thank you. That is someone who's able to receive. Feminine women are uncomfortable when someone gives them a compliment or even a gift that is within reason. They're not just uncomfortable. Oh, I got this from this store, and it was only $5. I just threw this on. No, she's comfortable. She says thank you. She doesn't have to over explain. She doesn't have to feel forced to then find something that she likes about the person to compliment. Sometimes I'm able to do that when I say thank you when someone compliments me. Then I take that time to share something that I admired about them that I already was admiring, so that it is a flow and it is a reciprocation, but it's not forced to the way that I felt uncomfortable and I feel like I have to say something, because you don't have to say anything. You can simply say thank you when someone gives you a compliment. And the softness of a woman is different. It's not always going to be that your voice sounds like mine. I tend to have a very naturally soft voice. Everyone doesn't have to have a hushed voice and sound like Marilyn Monroe. We don't all have to speak that way in order to be soft. Softness is about your behaviors, it's about your character, it's about the way you speak, the tonality in your voice, and the delivery. So I can be soft, but I can say, yeah, you are very annoying. I was still soft, but you see how harshly I spoke to that person, and then the type of words that I use. Saying someone's annoying, no one wants to be called annoying. So these are all things that a very feminine woman is aware of, and she's constantly working on being better in these areas. Continue to watch this video and you'll learn more. Okay, so the next point is that you can't be soft when you're still wounded. And the best story that I have for you is in Genesis chapter 21 with and 18 with Sarah. She was barren at the time, and when she was wounded about it and insecure about being barren, she worried. Instead of casting her cares onto the Lord, she worried that she would never be able to give her husband children. So from that place of woundedness, she went and had her husband sleep with her sister so that she could bear him children. Instead of waiting on the promise that came later on in the text, where God said, "No, you are going to be the mother of many nations," and then she had Isaac. So we just need to make sure that we allow ourselves healing space and time, and that we're not operating from a place of woundedness. I often say, because I love this quote and I'm not sure where it comes from, that don't bleed on people who didn't wound you. Don't bleed on people who didn't cut you. So most of the time, the people that you're operating and experiencing in your day-to-day life are not the people who hurt you, but they tend to be the people that get the brunt of your pain. And the way that we express our pain typically can be in sarcasm, it can be in fear, it can be in us rushing, it can be in us being rude and disrespectful and dismissive, or even just having a temper and lashing out at someone because you have wounds that you did not heal and you're just bleeding out on everyone. But that's not how God wants us to be. He wants us to be healed. He wants us to take our cares to Him. He says He's close to the brokenhearted, but we're going to actually have to let Him do a work in us. I mean, we have to trust in Him. When Sarah did trust in God and really received the word that He spoke into her life, then she was able to stop running around looking for women to give Abraham more children, and instead she said, I believe you, God. I know now, and I trust that I'm going to be the one to birth this nation and to be a mother of my own children. And the last point is boundaries restore our femininity. We need to not just be women who are like, oh, God's going to do it. God's going to take care of it. Yes, He will. But He also gave us tools such as boundaries and examples in Jesus's life and time on this earth to teach us that we need to protect ourselves and to protect the most precious gift that God left us with, being ourselves. So in Jesus's time and in the Gospels, we often see that Jesus retreated to the mountains, or that He even got on a boat and sailed away from people. He was setting very physical boundaries with people, and even at times He had to rebuke people. So these are examples of ways that Jesus set boundaries. He made it very clear that these people could not cross this line, that I needed my time to go spend with God. So these are just some of the ways that we can set boundaries, but in order to really protect our femininity using boundaries, I teach the concept of using an if-then statement. So this allows the person to know, I'm not going to set a rule, I'm not going to try to control you, but I'm going to let you know how I will respond to specific types of behaviors that I deem either unacceptable or behaviors that I'm not willing to deal with, which is essentially the same thing. So it's an if-then statement. I can say, for example, if you invite me to plans without at least 2 days notice, then I'm not sure if I'll be able to show up and attend. That lets the person know that if they are trying to invite you to something, then they're going to need to give you at least 2 days notice so that you have time to make preparations within your schedule so you can accommodate them and attend, of course. But it allows a person to know, I'm not going to yell at you and say, don't invite me to places last minute, that's rude, I don't like that, that's so disrespectful. Instead, you could just say, you know what, if you can't give me more than 2 days notice, then I'm not sure that I'll be able to attend. I most likely won't be able to attend. Another example could be, if you scream at me, if you yell at me, then I'm going to have to end this conversation. And you're letting someone know that while I'm soft and I'm feminine and I'm a kind woman, I'm not to be messed with or played with, and I'm going to protect myself. These are simple ways that you need to allow other people to respect you. Even if they're not a naturally respectful person, they will now know, okay, if I want to deal with Samara, if I want to deal with this person, then I'm going to need to be respectful or else they won't deal with me. And this is easier to do in your personal and interpersonal relationships, but it's also something that you can do in the workplace. It might not be as it might not be as structured as using an if then statement, but more so you would have to speak up for yourself so that people know, like, oh, she's not someone that I could just make a really harsh or rude comment to and think that she's just gonna stay quiet. She's gonna say, oh, excuse me, what did you say, or what did you mean by that? Focusing the attention on that person so that everyone can kind of hear the comment that they made, and now others and your allies will now also be able to step up for you. But these are just examples of boundaries that you should be setting as a woman who is on her feminine journey so that you can protect yourself and the softness that you're now cultivating and nurturing. A lot of us have come from some level of survival mode. So, with having that dysregulated nervous system, you're likely going to be almost hyper focused on protecting yourself. And that's what creates that hardened shell, that wall that you expect people to climb over and break down, that people just don't have to. And a healthy, healed friend or man coming into your life is they're really not going to want to do all of that just to get to you because they shouldn't have to. So that's the end of the video. I hope that you enjoyed. I also have my latest book out, Grace Over Grind, and that book is really going to help you learn these three concepts. It is 7 steps to reclaiming your power, pace, and peace without losing your femininity, because grace, it's again, it doesn't mean doing nothing, but it means that we're moving with God at his pace without panic, without pressure, but instead we're remaining poised, we're remaining patient, knowing that God is going to make all things possible in his perfect timing. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave an orange heart at the in the comments and give me a hello. Let me know where you typically watch from so that I can know where all my subscribers and viewers are from. I pray that you are blessed and that you have a wonderful day. Bye bye.